Hi there, this is Perusia, OJ here, and this is our 40-day Lenten Bible reflection. Hopefully you've read the readings, and hopefully you're pretty familiar with the readings if you haven't heard it today, because today is Sunday readings, so hopefully you would have already listened to the readings at Mass. Or you can read the readings in the link down below. First reading comes from Genesis, and this is the very famous scene with Abraham being asked to sacrifice Isaac. And of course, Abraham's like, okay, God, I guess I'll do it. You really want me to? I'll do it. And then God says, oh, JK, there's a ram over there. Glad you were willing to do so. That means you truly do love me. You don't have to really do it. But here's the thing. One of the things that I love about the Old Testament and the New Testament is how basically the New Testament makes no sense without the Old Testament, and you always have to read them. When you read the Old Testament, always look forward. And here we can definitely see the prefiguration of Jesus and what God the Father is going to do. He's asking Abraham to sacrifice his only beloved son, which of course we know what God is ultimately going to do for us. He let Abraham get away with not doing it, but yet with his own son, with Jesus, Jesus actually has to go up that mountain and has to be the sacrificial lamb. I think it's just amazing to see that Jesus is prefigured here. Another thing about Jesus in the Old Testament is that He is the perfection of all the covenants that God the Father made with all the prophets and all the big figures in the Old Testament. So right here, the Lord, through His messenger, says, I will bless you abundantly and make your descendants as countless as the stars in the sky and the sands of the seashore. Your descendants shall take possession of the gates of their enemies, and your descendants, all nations on the earth, shall find blessing. All this because you obeyed my command. It's true to a certain degree for Abraham, but Abraham their people end up having a very tumultuous up and down kind of thing, from being sacked by this country or that country and being enslaved. They go through a lot of things. But with Jesus, that promise gets fully fulfilled because all of us become adopted sons and daughters of the Father, of Abraham. So we are, and us and the saints are the descendants that took possession of the gates of their enemies, and all the nations of the earth shall find blessing. We are going to be that fulfillment here on earth through our adoption into the family of Christ, and in heaven when we become part of the family of saints. So much to unpack just from this one verse that really looks forward and is only fulfilled by Jesus. Now, going forward to the gospel, God has a thing with mountains, doesn't He? So there, He took Abraham to a certain height, or Abraham, yes. And now here, we're going up a mountain again, and Jesus is hanging out with Peter, James, and John. Peter, John, James. Jesus Christ Superstar. I always watch that during this time. Mark 9:2 is where our reading comes from. Then this is the Transfiguration. So many things harkening back to the Old Testament. Just like the Old Testament reading harkens back forward, or harpens back forward, back to the future, goes forward into the future. This one harkens backwards. So, for one, they're going up mountains again. And very similarly to all the prophets that came beforehand that went up mountains. And later Jesus is going to go up a mountain as well to be crucified. Here we have Moses and Elijah appearing in the Transfiguration. Now, and a cloud comes over them, just like the cloud when Moses went up the mountain, and they had the cloud following them, and it stopped on that mountain, and Moses would go up there to convene with God. Here we have the cloud again. Here we have the mountain again. Again, it's looking back and showing how Jesus is the fulfillment of all those things that happened in the past. Now, I'm going to take a different turn in reflecting about this gospel, and just think about what an amazing thing they must have seen, Peter, John, and James. I mean, wow, how privy the particular three are to have seen God in His glory. I mean, how would that feel? You've been with this guy, and he seems really wise, right? This Jesus guy, he seems really wise. He's been doing some miracles. You see a lot of promise here. I mean, he could be that promised king of the Davidic line that's going to finally free us from the Romans. And man, this Jesus guy, I think I'm backing the right horse here. But then he steps it up a notch. And he shows the three his transfigured self. I mean, we have no clue what that even could look like. But that's definitely something to meditate upon. Like, what that vision could have been like. And how that would have transformed them just from seeing that vision. Oddly enough, Peter still ends up denying him 3 times later down the road. It goes to show how we humans are. We get these miracles. We thank God for these miracles, and we're blown away by miracles. And the next thing you know, we deny Him. Good thing He's very forgiving, huh? So, actually, just a quick share. I personally had a crazy vision myself in my own prayer life. I haven't really shared it with much people. I'm sharing it here. It seems appropriate. Where at one time during adoration, right after I had just been, and this is the first time this ever happened to me, I was slain by the Spirit at a charismatic mass in OLPH here in Whittier, and Our Lady of Perpetual Help. Sorry, that acronym OLPH. That's a church. And I had been slain by the Spirit by this charismatic priest. And then afterwards I went to adoration, and my literal God, in the presence of the adoration, or of the Eucharist and the monstrance, I had this vision as if I was looking at only Christ's feet, just His feet. And I lost it completely. I was just bawling. And saliva tripping. I was just full on ugly crying. And my face was on the floor. That's the only time that's ever happened to me. And it hasn't happened to me since. I think that's kind of like my moment of seeing the Transfiguration. And I have to hang on to that moment. I don't want to be like a Peter and forget that moment. Again, these videos are as much for you as even more for myself, to just remind myself of these lessons and these things, and be convicted by these readings. On a last note, I know it's going a little longer than usual. A note about the Eucharist and kind of how it connects to the Transfiguration. In the Eucharist, we have the Transubstantiation, right? And we have the full glory, soul, divinity, the everythingness of Jesus there in the bread. In a different visage, right? In the species of bread, but He's there. I somehow had my Transfiguration type of holy mountain moment there. Ask for that. Find Him in the Eucharist. That's why we genuflect at church. That's why the building matters. Some churches will say, well, Christ is not in the building, He's in us. Yeah, it's true, He's in us. But with Catholic churches, He is literally in the building. That's why we have that red flame candle, to show, hey, right there. That's Christ, his true presence. That's why we genuflect. That's why there's the old tradition where if you drive past a church, make the sign of the cross, because you're acknowledging his actual, literal, real presence inside the tabernacle in the church. The veil has been torn open and we get to eat him now. So it's different than the past, but he's there. And in the Transfiguration, if you think about it, the apostles, Peter, John, and James didn't get to eat him. They got to behold his presence. But we get to actually take him in physically. Who has the advantage there? I mean, perhaps we have the greater of the two sides there, huh? Maybe our grass is greener because we get to actually eat Christ in a way that they didn't at that time, until later. So consider that, especially once we start having access to physical Mass again, and when you're able to actually attend. When you're looking at the Eucharist, think about the Transubstantiation, or sorry, what's the word now? You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. The other two word. I don't want to forget. It's kind of late that I'm recording this. So, Transfiguration, there it is. So when the priest is elevating that host, when Transubstantiation is happening, think of the Transfiguration. Reflect on that. Because so many things are happening during that time. This is happening. His crucifixion is happening. The last Passover that Christ had with his apostles is happening. And heaven is rejoicing and descending upon the earth during that time. It might be quiet. There might not even be music these days. But man, heaven is singing every time bread becomes Jesus. Let's reflect on that. That's all I got for today. Sorry if I rambled on a little more than usual. I think I'm tired. But I hope you got something out of it. I certainly do. Doing these things, it helps me just give a few minutes of my day to really dive deep into the scriptures more than I normally would. And I hope you get some benefit from that, if at all. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and God bless.